Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you are all well and thriving so far in 2025. I wondered if I should share this message, but I felt prompted to do so. It's funny because I was asking, who am I to think that I can teach something from the Bible when I'm not a ordained minister or pastor? Why not me? Why not me? Sometimes Spirit leads us to share messages that feel uncomfortable and that challenge us to go beyond what we think we're capable of. But in this new year of 2025, I am up for the challenge. So I was doing some study of the Bible recently, and I got to Luke chapter 8, verses 22 to 25. And this is from the New Standard Revised Version. The title of this section is Jesus Calms a Storm. One day he got into a boat with his disciples and he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side of the lake." So they put out, and while they were sailing, he fell asleep. A windstorm swept down on the lake and the boat was filling with water and they were in danger. They went to him and woke him up shouting, "Master, Master, we are perishing." And waking up, he rebuked the wind and the raging waves. They ceased and there was a calm. Then he said to them, "Where is your faith?" They were terrified and amazed and said to one another, "Who then is this that he commands even the winds and the water, and they obey him?" Sometimes Spirit puts a simple idea in our head, just the way Jesus said, "Let's go to the other side of the lake." It makes me think about 2021. At that time, I was barely on social media. I used to say all the time, I hate Facebook, I hate Instagram. At that time, I didn't understand the benefits, and I reduced it to something simple, just a bunch of people glamorizing their lives and an echo chamber of thoughts. I thought it was shallow. I looked at this verse and I questioned, what is a lake? So I typed it into ChatGPT. ChatGPT told me a lake is a large inland body of water typically surrounded by land that is larger and deeper than a pond. Lakes can be fresh or saline and are usually fed by rivers, streams, precipitation, or groundwater. They serve as important ecosystems, water sources, and recreational areas. I also thought of TLC's Waterfalls, where they say, don't go chasing waterfalls. Please stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. Lakes are simple, especially for the disciples who were fishermen. In fact, Jesus called the first disciples at a lake. And which lake was that? It was the lake of Gennesaret, which that's reflected in Luke chapter 5, verses 1 through 5. Once while Jesus was standing beside the lake of Gennesaret and the crowd was pressing in on him to hear the word of God, he saw two boats there at the shore of the lake. The fishermen had gotten out of them and were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little way from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the crowds from the boat. When he finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water and let down your nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we have worked all night long, but have caught nothing. Yet if you say so, I will let down the nets." Sometimes we're so used to failing that we doubt we can succeed. I imagine how Simon felt on that day as a professional fisherman out all night and catching no fish. I remember I've only been fishing one time, but my first and only time fishing with my father-in-law and uncle-in-law. I was squeamish. I was grossed out by the bloodworms that we were supposed to use as bait. But after some guidance and some time, I caught me a black bass. It was a nice big one at that, and I was an amateur. So I asked ChatGPT, does the Lake of Gennesaret tend to have a lot of fish in it? It answered yes, that lake is historically known for its abundance of fish. The lake known as the Sea of Galilee are considered rich fishing grounds due to its warm climate and nutrient-rich waters. It has been a productive fishing spot for centuries. It is known for having tilapia, also known as St. Peter's fish, catfish, sardines, and carp. Fishing remains an important industry to this day. Why so many fish? The lake's ecological conditions make it an ideal habitat. The warm waters, rich biodiversity, and shallow depth. It has a reputation as a thriving fishing lake. So in that verse, Jesus tells Simon to attempt to catch more fish. And in Luke 5:6-8, it says, when they had done this, they caught so many fish that their nets were beginning to burst. So they signaled their partners in the other boats to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats. So they began to sink. But then Simon Peter saw it. He fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, "Go away from me, Lord, for I'm a sinful man." And we jump down to Luke 6:10-11. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on, you will be catching people." When they had brought their boats to shore, they left everything and followed him. At the time when I thought social media was shallow, I made 2 impactful posts. First one was on July 14th, 2020. And I wrote, "I'm giving myself permission to feel proud of myself. No more shrugging off accomplishments and compliments. I'm living a life much greater than I ever imagined. Tonight, I sat in a Zoom room with playwrights I have followed and admired and had my name and play read along with theirs for the Kilroy's List 2020. Sandra Oh was there, y'all. And Dominique Morisseau, Lynn Nottage, Jackie Sybil's Drury, Nataki Garrett, Karen Zacharias, Colleen Sinnette Jennings, and more. I cried tears of joy thinking about how proud my mentors, Dr. Walter Dallas and Scott Reese, would be and are of me. How proud I am of myself. Don't wait to celebrate yourself. Do it now." And that post got the most likes and comments I had received for years. And then another post, July 20th, 2021. It was a selfie on my birthday, and I wrote 37. "I know who I am, and I possess everything I wished for. I'm blessed, healthy, well, clear, evolving, glowing, learning, caring, creating, mothering, and most importantly, loved and loved and loved." And from that post, a friend of mine, Wendy, created art of me. And at the start of 2022, Spirit told me, let's cross that shallow lake of social media. I didn't know why, but I followed. I started with posing with my plants, then my fashion. Then I opened up my mouth. I created a YouTube channel, and I became a catcher of men. I gained more impact and more followers. Then my first storm came, which was uterine fibroids. I bled for most of the year, even though some of the tumors that were in my uterus had already calcified or died off. I stayed on that boat through 2 surgeries. It sucked and low-key ruined my year, but I trusted God for my healing. And after the second surgery, that healing came. I shot a YouTube video that went viral. But then the real storm came for me, and that storm was breast cancer. It felt like the Lord was sleeping on me. Like, you mean to tell me I made it through all that bleeding, hormonal acne, depression, and pain only to get cancer? But how do you wake God up? Prayer. I prayed, "God, when you heal me, I promise I will use my platforms to share all the blessings and miracles you work in my life." So I started sharing my story and became a catcher of men. If Peter and the disciples stopped for a second time to remember the last time they could have drowned on a boat when Jesus was there, would they have shouted, "Master, Master, we are perishing"? It sounds like anxiety and fear speaking, don't it? It sounds like a panic attack. It feels like you are actually dying. It feels helpless. But where is your faith? Where is your faith? With breast cancer, I had to remind myself that my body, this body, has killed tumors before. After changing my diet about a week before I took that birthday picture, that selfie in 2021, my body renewed itself. It calcified, which basically means killed 3 uterine fibroids. And fibroids are basically benign tumors. So my body has a history of killing tumors. What has God done for you in the past that relates to where you are now? That is where your faith lies. What are the rivers and the lakes that you're used to? For me, it's chronic illness, chronic pain. But how do you get out? In Mark 16, Jesus has resurrected by this time, 3 days after being crucified. Verses 14 through 15 say, later, Jesus appeared to the 11 themselves as they were sitting at the table, and he upbraided them for their lack of faith and stubbornness because they had not believed those who saw him after he had risen. And he said to them, go into all the world and proclaim the good news to the whole creation. Then we jump down to verse 17. And these signs will accompany those who believe. By using my name, they will cast out demons. They will speak in new tongues. They will pick up snakes. And if they drink any deadly thing, it will not harm them. They will lay their hands on the sick and they will recover. Jesus basically said that we can do what he did if we believe. It doesn't take perfection or faith that never wavers to be powerful. In that moment, Jesus was getting on the disciples because their faith had wavered. But even with wavering faith, even in weakness, they still had the power to do the miracles that he did. Look at us as disciples, as people who carry a cup of God inside of us. We have the power to change our circumstance and to perform miracles as well. Our power lies in the God that resides inside of us. I ask you to remember what God has brought you through because it is preparation for what is to come. So when a storm comes, we don't assume it's the end. We wake the Master through prayer, but we must not assume the worst because where you once failed could very well be where your treasure lies. So again, I ask, where is your faith? Much love.